Today, all of us know a lot about Buddhism and that it was started by Gautam Buddha, right? And he had so many different lessons and teachings that he spread all throughout the world. But how did he manage to do that? Today, we are going to learn all about that. The first thing is that there were several different important events in Buddha's life, and all of these events are symbolized by different things. For example, Buddha's birth has been symbolized by the flower lotus or a bull. The great renunciation in which he gave up everything has been symbolized by a horse. Nirvana was symbolized by a bodhi tree or a peepal tree. His first sermon has been symbolized by a dharma chakra or a wheel. And lastly, the parinirvana or Buddha's death has been symbolized by a stupa. So take a look at this picture here. This is in fact the Dhamek stupa which is there at Sarnath in Varanasi. And it is in fact this place where Buddha gave his first sermon. He taught here about the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, right? And he delivered this sermon to 5 disciples. And it was these students or these disciples who preserved his teachings and spread it all across the continent. So, did you know that the flower lotus is Buddha's birth symbol? As it is said that in his childhood, the flower appeared everywhere that he went. Other than that, the horse has symbolized Buddha's renouncing his royal life. So this is because when Buddha at the age of 29 decided to leave everything behind, decided to leave his palace behind, he did so sitting on a horse. Here is a sculpture which depicts Buddha renouncing his royal life. So you can see Buddha sitting here on a horse, and that is why horse symbolizes Buddha renouncing his royal life. Other than that, the peepal tree or the bodhi tree represents his nirvana. Why so? Well, it is said that Buddha actually achieved nirvana sitting right under a bodhi tree. So, after knowing about that, can you answer this question? Which flower symbolizes Buddha's birth? Is it lotus, rose, or tulip? Well, the correct answer is lotus. So now what happened is that after Buddha's parinirvana or death, there were a lot of disputes, questions and confusion that arose amongst Buddha's followers about Buddhist sutras or Buddhist rules and regulations. And so a lot of questions and confusions rose amongst the followers. So what happened next? Well, to settle these disputes, these questions, many gatherings took place, right? And so what were these gatherings called exactly? Well, these gatherings were called councils, and these were very important. So people from around the world attended these gatherings. The first Buddhist council has been said to have taken place right in the first rainy season after Buddha's death. And so it was held in 400 BCE and it took place in Rajgriha, which is in Bihar, right? And even in this picture here, you can see the cave on the hills of Rajgriha where the Buddhist council is said to have taken place. And it is said that this first Buddhist council was there for 7 months. And even today, people can visit this place. So after that, the second Buddhist council took place in Vaishali, which is in Bihar, in 383 BCE, almost a century after Buddha's death. The third Buddhist council took place in Asokarma in Pataliputra in 251 BCE under the patronage of King Ashoka, who was a Mauryan king and he was the first king to embrace Buddhism, right? And even in this picture here, you can see Ashoka. So the traditional reason that has been given to hold this third Buddhist council was to rid the Sangha or the group of enemies and also of corruption. So there were now enemies who had infiltrated the Sangha dressed as friends and were in fact not good for these people. So to pinpoint them out, this third Buddhist council had taken place. Now coming to the fourth Buddhist council, which was held in Kashmir in 1st century BC. Now this one is an important Buddhist council. Why? Well, because it was during this council that Buddhism suffered a split, and so it was divided into two sects. One of those is Mahayana Buddhism and the other one is Hinayana Buddhism. And even in this picture here, you can see Emperor Kanishka inaugurating Mahayana Buddhism. Well, you'd be really fascinated to know that today in Sri Lanka, Buddhism is the official religion and it is the most followed religion there. So, how do you think this religion went to Sri Lanka or got spread to Sri Lanka? Well, it is because of King Ashoka again. In fact, he was so devoted to this religion that he sent his son Mahendra and his daughter Sanghamitra to Sri Lanka to spread Buddhism in Sri Lanka. So now Buddhism also affected the art and architecture of India. How so? Well, take a look at this picture here. This in fact is the Sanchi Stupa, which is a really famous Buddhist monument, right? So this is a stupa which is considered really important because it is said that in stupas, Buddhist religious objects have been buried, right? So stupas are really important. Along with constructing such stupas, they also constructed temples called viharas along with several other monuments, right? And so one of these things is a rock cut caves, and rock cut caves are really important in Buddhism. So take a look at this picture here. This is in fact the Ajanta caves, which is the most famous example of a rock cut cave. So from one big rock, such a monument has been created. And so we can understand that Buddhist people have made stupas along with viharas and other monuments along with such intricate rock cut caves. So you can see that Buddhism has in fact left a big impact on Indian heritage and art and architecture, right? And even in this day and age, a lot of people visit such monuments and such places to check out exactly how beautiful these places are and to truly admire them. So today you must have seen several statues of Buddha, right? So what exactly do we know about this Gandhara style? Well, it is in fact an art form in which different types of Buddha's statues were made, such as the ones that you can see here, which basically depict the story of Buddha. For example, here you can see a Gandhara art form which is basically depicting the birth of Buddha and his first 7 steps. And these first 7 steps are really important and make a really fascinating story. And to know more about this story, click on the link for the iDictionary feature. Other than that, there is the Amravati Stupa, which is present in the village of Amravati in Maharashtra, right? And it is said that this was made during Ashoka's time. However, there is no proper evidence proving this fact to us. Other than that, there is also the Bharhut Stupa. Bharhut is actually a village that is present in Madhya Pradesh, right? It is famous for the relics of the Buddhist stupas that have been found in this place. In fact, take a look at the picture here. This is a depiction of a Bharhut stupa. Along with that, you can even check this picture out here, which is the gateway of the Bharhut stupa. And it is said that a lot of it was donated to them by King Dhanabhuti, right? And so, in today's day, most of these are found in Indian Museum, which is located in Kolkata. Other than that, various institutions were also founded to promote or to spread Buddhism, right? And so many monasteries were converted into schools. In these schools, subjects like art, architecture, philosophy, logic, medicine, and Buddhist scriptures were taught, right? Later on, these schools converted into renowned universities such as Nalanda, Taxila, and there was even one in Gaya. Right? And so what had actually happened is that these schools attracted a lot of foreign students. And so with the help of such schools, Buddhism was also spread out of India. Now, we know that Buddha taught all of his students orally. And after his death, for 500 years, his students also continued this tradition of teaching orally. So basically his teachings were not written down anywhere, right? However, after 500 years of Buddha's death, finally there were some Buddhist literature. These were the 3 Pitakas or Tripitakas, meaning 3 baskets. So what were these? These were the Sutta Pitaka, the Vinaya Pitaka and the Abhidhamma Pitaka. And so, as there was no paper back then, so where did these people exactly write? Well, these were written on palm leaves. So as we get the Vedas and Ramayana and Mahabharata, which are very important epics in Hinduism, this is the literature that Hinduism has given to us, right? So that is also present in Buddhism. Buddhism also gives us some literature. These include the Divyavadana, which has 38 very interesting stories in which Buddha is basically teaching his disciples about a man who has faced several different consequences because of his past actions. Other than that, there is also the Lalit Vistara, which tells us about another story of Buddha, and we also have Jataka Tales, which tells us about Buddha's previous lives, whether it was in an animal form or a human form. So don't you think these are really interesting reads? In fact, these were either written in Sanskrit or in Pali. However, in today's date, they have been translated into various different languages and can be easily found in bookstores all across the world. So, these literary works were written in different languages. Why was it so? Well, there could have been a problem in the spread of Buddhism. So, if you don't understand a language, how will you accept its literature? So, to avoid that problem of language barrier, the literature that was there in Buddhism was written in different languages, methods, and writing systems. In fact, even after the invention of printing press, a lot of Buddhist monks continued writing these by hand as it had a spiritual value to it. So, from that we can understand just exactly how devoted these people are towards their religion. Now, from all of this, we can in fact understand the impact that Buddhism has had on Indian culture. Firstly, protecting animals became an important part of our society. So, it was during the Vedic times that Buddhism actually emerged, right? And during that point of time, a lot of animal sacrifices used to take place. And Buddhism is against violence of any kind, because we know that because of violence a lot of people suffer and even living forms suffer. So with Buddhism came the concept of protecting animals, and this is a practice that is still followed in India, right? Other than that, Buddhism also gave people the opportunity to stand with each other as equals. So as we already know that this was the Vedic times, and during the Vedic time in Hinduism there was a caste system according to which someone was on the top and someone was at the bottom. So the one on the top would easily exploit the person in the bottom, right? And that was not okay at all. And once Buddhism came, what happened? Well, Buddhism gave us the opportunity for all to be equal. So it shows us that just like every finger is important in our hand, similarly, every person is important in the society irrespective of their functions. So other than that, it also brought a reform in Hinduism. How did it do so? Well, as we already know that during that point of time, there were a lot of people who were sick of the sacrifices and complex rituals that were taking place in Hinduism. And the people who could not afford such complex rituals felt further away from God. And these people now were really attracted towards Buddhism, as there was also equality in this religion, right? So because of all of these, Hinduism also started abandoning all of these complex rituals and sacrifices. Along with that, Hindus saw how Buddhists were devoted toward their religion and were making such beautiful stupas, monuments, other viharas and buildings like such. So inspired by that, Hindus also started constructing beautiful temples for their gods and goddesses. And Buddhism also improved the condition of the society. So how did it improve the condition of the society? Well, Buddhist traditions and Buddhist rules and regulations taught people how to live a moralistic, a righteous life, right? And because of this, the poor people could now also live a happy and fruitful life. Now there were also missionaries who were traveling outside India to spread the word of Buddhism. So there were missionaries which connected India to different nations where they traveled to spread Buddhism. Because of this, there were now ties. There was now a bond between these missionaries and the people outside. So these ties had an effect on their culture, and along with that, it also boosted the reputation and prestige of India. So these were a few impact of Buddhism on Indian culture. So from all of that, we can understand that today Buddhism is the fourth largest religion in the world. And now we're going to see what is the reason behind all of this. Firstly, missionaries helped spread Buddhism across distant countries. So what are missionaries? Well, missionaries are people who actually travel to other countries or other different places where their religion has not exactly reached. And so they teach other people about their religion. So they give out knowledge about their religion and try to convert people from several different religions into their own religion. So the role of missionaries is another important one in the spread of Buddhism. Other than that, with the help of these missionaries and various different reasons, today Buddhism has spread to countries like Bhutan, Myanmar, Cambodia, Tibet, Thailand, China, Japan, and so many more countries. In fact, you should pause the video here so that you can take a look at all of these different countries. Other than that, as we already spoke about King Ashoka, who was the third Mauryan king, but was the first king in India to actually embrace Buddhism, right? And he even built stupas and pillars in order to show truly how devoted he was towards this religion. However, he was not the only king to spread Buddhism, right? In fact, Harsha and Kanishka were other rulers who embraced Buddhism and declared it as a state religion. So we can actually understand how seriously they had taken this religion, right? And even these rulers sent out missionaries. So we can see that at different point of time, these missionaries and the several rulers helped in the spread of Buddhism. So after learning all of that, we can understand that Buddhism was started by Gautama Buddha 2500 years ago, right? However, with the death of Buddha, it did not mean the end of Buddhism. In fact, because of his teachings and because of his pupils and followers, Buddhism, in fact, has spread all throughout the globe today. And millions of people in this day and age also follow this religion. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free on DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app and get easy access to more than 5,000 amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million+ questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and get a chance to win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it's rewarding too. So register for free now.